Karoline Leavitt had always been the kind of person who believed in hard work and honesty. From a young age, she was taught that if you put your heart into something, success would eventually follow. Her parents were simple people. Her father worked as a mechanic, and her mother ran a small bakery from their home. Growing up, Karoline watched them struggle but never complain. They always found joy in the little things like family dinners or weekend trips to the park. This upbringing shaped Karoline into someone who valued effort over shortcuts and integrity over convenience. She carried these lessons with her as she navigated life, especially after landing her dream job at a well-known marketing firm in the city. The office where Karoline worked was bustling with energy. It was filled with talented individuals, all striving to make names for themselves. At first, everything seemed perfect. Karoline loved her role, creating campaigns that resonated with people and brought results. Her colleagues admired her creativity, and her clients appreciated her dedication. But there was one person who didn't quite see eye to eye with her, her manager. He was a tall man with sharp features and an even sharper tongue. Known for his progressive views, he often pushed agendas that leaned heavily toward liberal ideologies. While many employees went along with it, Karoline found herself questioning some of the approaches. She wasn't against progress, she just believed that balance was important. Unfortunately, this difference in perspective became a point of contention between them. Their disagreements started small. During team meetings, Karoline would occasionally raise concerns about certain campaign ideas that felt too politically charged. She argued that while standing up for causes was admirable, alienating parts of the audience could harm the company's reputation. Her manager dismissed her opinions, saying she lacked vision and understanding. Over time, these clashes grew more frequent. The tension reached its peak during a particularly heated discussion about a new ad campaign. The theme revolved around a controversial topic, and while most of the team supported it, Karoline voiced her reservations. She explained calmly that the message might not resonate with everyone and could even offend some customers. Her manager's face turned red with anger. "You just don't get it," he snapped, slamming his hand on the table. The room fell silent, and Karoline felt a lump form in her throat. That evening, as Karoline packed her things to leave, she couldn't shake off the feeling of unease. Something about the way her manager had reacted felt personal, almost vindictive. Little did she know, the worst was yet to come. The next morning, she arrived at the office to find an email summoning her to HR. Her stomach churned as she made her way to the meeting room. Sitting across from two stern-looking HR representatives, Karoline listened in disbelief as they handed her a termination letter. The reason? Allegedly, her inability to adapt to the company culture. No matter how much she tried to defend herself, the decision was final. Tears welled up in her eyes as she gathered her belongings and walked out of the building for the last time. Outside, the world seemed unchanged, but inside, Karoline felt like her entire foundation had crumbled. Walking home that day felt surreal. Each step weighed heavier than the last, and her mind replayed the events over and over again. How could speaking her mind lead to such consequences? Had she done something wrong by staying true to her beliefs? These questions swirled in her head as she reached her apartment. Mark, her husband, greeted her with a warm smile, but his expression quickly changed when he saw the sadness etched on her face. Without saying a word, Karoline collapsed onto the couch, tears streaming down her cheeks. Mark sat beside her, holding her hand and listening patiently as she recounted every detail of what had happened. His jaw tightened with anger, but instead of letting emotions take over, he took a deep breath. "This isn't the end, Karoline," he said softly. "Tomorrow will be different." Though skeptical, Karoline clung to those words. That night, sleep eluded her as doubts and fears crept in. Would she ever find another job? Could they survive financially without her income? Questions plagued her mind until exhaustion finally took over. When morning came, sunlight streamed through the windows, casting a golden glow across the room. Still groggy, Karoline shuffled to the kitchen to make coffee. As she glanced out the window, her heart skipped a beat. Parked right outside their building was a sleek, shiny Rolls-Royce. Its polished surface gleamed under the sun, attracting curious glances from neighbors and passers-by. Stunned, Karoline turned to Mark, who stood leaning against the doorway with a mischievous grin. "What is this?" she asked, her voice trembling with confusion. "Let's take a ride," he replied, tossing her the keys. Climbing into the luxurious car felt surreal. The leather seats enveloped them in comfort, and the engine purred like a contented cat. As they drove through the city streets, Mark revealed the truth behind the mysterious vehicle. For years, he had secretly invested in stocks, carefully researching and planning for the future. Recently, those investments had paid off significantly, giving them a financial cushion they hadn't anticipated. "This car represents our freedom," he explained, his tone filled with excitement. "We don't have to worry about toxic environments or unfair bosses anymore. We can create our own path." Hearing those words, Karoline felt a spark of hope ignite within her. Maybe losing her job wasn't the disaster she thought it was. Maybe it was the beginning of something greater. Over the next few days, Karoline and Mark spent hours brainstorming ideas. With Mark's newfound wealth providing stability, they decided to start their own business. Karoline's expertise in marketing combined with Mark's financial acumen made them a formidable team. Their goal was to create something meaningful, a brand that promoted positivity and inclusivity without compromising authenticity. Every idea they discussed fueled their excitement, and soon they began turning their dreams into reality. Though daunting, the prospect of building something from scratch gave Karoline a sense of purpose she hadn't felt in years. For the first time since her dismissal, she allowed herself to imagine a brighter future, one where she called the shots and stayed true to her values. As weeks turned into months, their efforts began paying off. Karoline threw herself into designing products and crafting campaigns that resonated with customers. Mark handled logistics, ensuring their finances remained stable. Their eco-friendly lifestyle brand slowly gained traction, attracting attention for its unique approach. Orders trickled in at first, then surged as word spread. One evening, as they celebrated another milestone, Karoline reflected on how far they'd come. Losing her previous job had forced her to confront fears and doubts, but it also opened doors she never imagined existed. Together, they had transformed adversity into opportunity, proving that sometimes endings are merely beginnings in disguise. Years later, as Karoline stood on stage delivering a keynote speech at an entrepreneurship conference, she couldn't help but smile. Looking out at the sea of eager faces, she recounted her journey, the unfair dismissal, the unexpected gift of the Rolls-Royce, and the courage to start anew. She emphasized the importance of staying true to oneself, even in the face of adversity. As applause erupted throughout the hall, she felt a deep sense of gratitude. Backstage, Mark greeted her with a proud hug. Together, they had built not just a thriving company, but a legacy rooted in perseverance and love. Life had thrown them a curveball, but they caught it and ran with it, proving that resilience and determination could turn any setback into a stepping stone toward success. The next morning, Karoline woke up feeling a mix of emotions: curiosity, hope, and a lingering sense of disbelief. The sight of the Rolls-Royce parked outside their modest apartment still felt surreal. It was as if the car didn't belong in their world. Yet there it was, gleaming under the sunlight like a beacon of possibility. Mark had already made coffee and was sitting at the kitchen table when she joined him. He looked calm but determined, his eyes reflecting the same resolve that had comforted her the night before. "Today is the day we start fresh," he said, breaking the silence. His voice carried a quiet confidence that steadied Karoline's nerves. She nodded, though deep down, uncertainty lingered. Could they really turn this unexpected twist into something meaningful? After breakfast, Mark handed her a notebook. "Let's write down every idea you have," he suggested. Karoline hesitated for a moment. She had spent years working for someone else, following guidelines and adhering to company policies. Now, the thought of creating something entirely her own felt both exhilarating and overwhelming. But Mark encouraged her to think big, reminding her that failure wasn't an option. They had nothing to lose. Slowly, ideas began to flow. "Karoline, jotted down concepts for products, marketing strategies, and even potential clients. Her mind raced with possibilities, fueled by the freedom they now had. For hours they brainstormed, bouncing ideas off each other until the notebook was filled with scribbles and sketches. By late afternoon, Karoline's excitement had grown. She realized that starting their own business could be more than just a way to earn money. It could be an opportunity to make a difference. Over the past few years, she had noticed a growing demand for eco-friendly and sustainable products. People were becoming more conscious of their choices, wanting to support brands that aligned with their values. This realization sparked an idea. What if they created a lifestyle brand focused on sustainability? Not only would it appeal to modern consumers, but it could also promote positive change. When she shared the concept with Mark, his eyes lit up. "That's it," he exclaimed. "It's perfect. Let's do it." With a clear vision in mind, they dove headfirst into planning. Karoline took charge of designing the brand identity, researching trends, and sketching out product ideas. She wanted everything to feel authentic, from the packaging to the messaging. Meanwhile, Mark handled the financial side, crunching numbers and exploring funding options. They worked tirelessly, often late into the night, fueled by coffee and determination. Their small apartment became a hub of creativity, with sticky notes plastered on walls and fabric swatches scattered across tables. Friends and family noticed the change in them. They seemed more alive, more driven. Even Karoline's parents called to check in, sensing the shift in her energy. When she told them about the business idea, they were skeptical but supportive, reminding her to stay grounded. As weeks turned into months, the pieces of their dream began falling into place. They registered the company, secured a small warehouse space, and started reaching out to suppliers. One of the biggest challenges was finding manufacturers who shared their commitment to sustainability. Many companies claimed to prioritize eco-friendly practices, but upon closer inspection, their operations fell short. Karoline refused to compromise, insisting that their brand stand for something real. After countless phone calls and meetings, they finally found a partner who understood their vision. The collaboration marked a turning point, giving them the confidence to move forward. Their first product line consisted of reusable household items, bamboo utensils, biodegradable cleaning supplies, and cloth shopping bags. Each item was carefully designed to combine functionality with style, appealing to a wide range of customers. Karoline poured her heart into every detail, ensuring that the branding reflected their mission. The logo featured a minimalist leaf motif, symbolizing growth and renewal. The tagline, "Live Green, Live Well," encapsulated their philosophy. As the launch date approached, anticipation built. Karoline and Mark spent hours preparing social media posts, crafting emails, and setting up their website. They knew the initial response would determine whether their hard work paid off. Finally, the big day arrived. Karoline woke up early, her stomach fluttering with nerves. She logged onto the website, refreshing the page every few minutes to see if any orders had come in. By mid-morning, the first sale popped up. A set of bamboo utensils purchased by a customer in another state. Karoline let out a squeal of delight, rushing to tell Mark. More orders trickled in throughout the day, each one bringing a wave of relief and joy. By evening, they had sold nearly half of their inventory. Exhausted but elated, they celebrated with takeout pizza, savoring the sweetness of their accomplishment. For the first time in months, Karoline allowed herself to believe that this crazy idea might actually work. But success didn't come without its hurdles. In the weeks that followed, they faced setbacks that tested their resilience. Some shipments arrived late, causing delays in fulfilling orders. A few customers complained about packaging issues, prompting Karoline to rethink their logistics. There were days when frustration threatened to overwhelm them, but they pushed through, learning from each mistake. Mark reminded her that building a business was a marathon, not a sprint. "We're laying the foundation," he said during one particularly tough week. "Every challenge makes us stronger." Despite the obstacles, their efforts gradually gained traction. Word of mouth spread, and soon their products caught the attention of local influencers and bloggers. One Instagram post featuring their Cloth shopping bags went viral, driving a surge in traffic to their website. Sales skyrocketed overnight, leaving Karoline scrambling to keep up with demand. She hired part-time help to manage orders and reached out to additional suppliers to restock inventory. The sudden influx of attention was overwhelming but validating. People weren't just buying their products, they were embracing their message. Their business grew, so did Karoline's confidence. She began using her platform to advocate for causes close to her heart, such as reducing plastic waste and supporting fair trade practices. Through blog posts and social media updates, she educated customers about the importance of sustainability. Her authenticity resonated with people, earning her a loyal following. Customers started sharing stories of how her products had inspired them to adopt greener habits. Reading those messages filled Karoline with pride, knowing that their work was making a tangible impact. One evening, as they reviewed monthly sales reports, Mark leaned back in his chair with a satisfied grin. "We did it," he said, his voice tinged with awe. "We actually did it." Karoline smiled, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. Starting their own business hadn't been easy, but it had been worth it. They had transformed a painful chapter in their lives into something extraordinary. The Rolls-Royce, once a symbol of sudden change, now represented their journey, from uncertainty to triumph, from adversity to opportunity. Friends and family marveled at their transformation, often asking how they managed to bounce back so strongly. Karoline would smile and say, "Sometimes life pushes you out of your comfort zone because there's something better waiting for you." She believed that losing her job had been a blessing in disguise, forcing her to confront fears and embrace new possibilities. Together, she and Mark had proven that resilience and determination could overcome even the toughest challenges. Years later, as Karoline stood on stage delivering a keynote speech at an entrepreneurship conference, she couldn't help but reflect on how far they'd come. Looking out at the sea of eager faces, she recounted her story, the unfair dismissal, the unexpected gift of the Rolls-Royce, and the courage to start anew. She emphasized the importance of staying true to oneself, even in the face of adversity. As applause erupted throughout the hall, she felt a deep sense of gratitude. Backstage, Mark greeted her with a proud hug. Together, they had built not just a thriving company but a legacy rooted in perseverance and love. Life had thrown them a curveball, but they caught it and ran with it, proving that sometimes endings are merely beginnings in disguise. As the months rolled by, Karoline and Mark's business continued to grow, but the journey was far from smooth. Each day brought new challenges that tested their patience, creativity, and resolve. One of the biggest hurdles they faced was scaling up production while maintaining the quality and integrity of their products. When orders spiked unexpectedly after a viral social media post, they quickly realized they weren't prepared for the surge in demand. Their small warehouse became cluttered with boxes, and their part-time staff struggled to keep up with packing and shipping. Karoline spent hours on the phone with suppliers trying to negotiate faster delivery times, while Mark juggled finances to cover unexpected expenses. It was exhausting, but neither of them considered giving up. Karoline knew that customer satisfaction was key to building trust and loyalty. She personally responded to every email and comment, addressing concerns and thanking people for their support. Some customers were unhappy with the delays and a few even demanded refunds. Instead of ignoring the complaints, Karoline used them as opportunities to improve. She introduced a live chat feature on their website so customers could get instant updates about their orders. She also implemented a rewards program to show appreciation for repeat buyers. These small changes made a big difference, turning frustrated clients into loyal advocates. Slowly but surely, their reputation began to solidify, not just as a sustainable brand but as a company that genuinely cared about its customers. Another challenge came in the form of competition. As their business gained popularity, other companies started copying their ideas. Knockoff versions of their bamboo utensils and cloth bags appeared online at lower prices. At first, Karoline felt deflated. All her hard work seemed to be overshadowed by cheaper imitations. But Mark reminded her that imitation was a form of flattery. It meant they were doing something right. Rather than getting discouraged, Karoline decided to double down on what set them apart: authenticity and innovation. She began experimenting with new product lines, such as biodegradable phone cases and reusable snack pouches. These unique offerings helped them stay ahead of the curve and reinforce their position as industry leaders. While managing the business consumed most of their time, Karoline and Mark made sure not to neglect their personal lives. They set aside evenings for family dinners and weekends for long walks in the park. These moments of normalcy kept them grounded and reminded them why they had embarked on this journey in the first place. Karoline often found herself reflecting on how much she had grown over the past year. The timid woman who had been afraid to speak up at work was now confidently leading a team, making decisions, and taking risks. Her confidence didn't come from success alone. It stemmed from knowing that she was living authentically, staying true to her values no matter what. Their growing success also opened doors to collaborations and partnerships. Local stores began stocking their products, and soon, larger retailers expressed interest. One day, Karoline received an email from a major department store chain asking if they would consider supplying their eco-friendly items nationwide. She stared at the screen, in disbelief, rereading the message multiple times before showing it to Mark. "This is huge," he said, his voice trembling with excitement. After weeks of negotiations, they finalized the deal, marking a significant milestone in their journey. Seeing their products displayed on shelves across the country filled Karoline with immense pride. It was proof that their hard work was paying, off in ways they never imagined. Despite their achievements, Karoline remained humble. She understood that success wasn't just about numbers or accolades, it was about impact. Every time someone purchased one of their reusable items, they were making a conscious choice to reduce waste and protect the planet. That thought inspired her to think bigger. She started hosting workshops and webinars to educate people about sustainable living. Topics ranged from reducing plastic use to composting at home. The response was overwhelming. Hundreds of participants tuned in to learn practical tips and share their own experiences. Karoline loved connecting with like-minded individuals who shared her passion for creating a better world. Mark, too, played a crucial role in their success. While Karoline focused on the creative and operational aspects of the business, he handled the financial side with precision. He tracked expenses meticulously, ensuring they reinvested profits wisely. He also explored new investment opportunities to diversify their income streams. His foresight paid off when he invested in a startup developing innovative recycling technologies. Though risky, the venture turned out to be profitable, providing additional funds to expand their product line. Together, they complemented each other perfectly, balancing strengths and weaknesses to create a harmonious partnership. As their brand gained recognition, invitations to speak at events and conferences poured in. Karoline initially hesitated, feeling intimidated by the idea of addressing large audiences. But Mark encouraged her to embrace the opportunity, reminding her that her story could inspire others. Her first speaking engagement was nerve-wracking, but as she stood on stage sharing her journey, from being unfairly dismissed to building a thriving business, she noticed heads nodding in agreement and eyes lighting up with inspiration. By the end of her talk, the room erupted in applause. That moment marked a turning point for her. She realized that her story wasn't just hers. It belonged to anyone who had ever faced adversity and dared to dream again. The couple's success didn't go unnoticed within their community. Friends and neighbors who had once doubted their ambitious plans now looked at them with admiration. Karoline's parents visited more often, marveling at how their daughter had transformed setbacks into triumphs. Her father, always proud but reserved, hugged her tightly during one visit and whispered, "I always knew you had it in you." Those words meant the world to her, affirming that she was on the right path. Even her former manager, whose actions had indirectly led to this chapter in her life, reached out via LinkedIn to congratulate her. Though tempted to ignore the message, Karoline replied graciously, thanking him for unknowingly pushing her towards something greater. With stability came the freedom to give back. Karoline and Mark launched a charitable initiative called Green Futures, aimed at supporting environmental causes. A portion of their profits went toward funding projects like planting trees, cleaning up beaches, and educating underprivileged communities about sustainability. They partnered with local schools to teach students about eco-friendly practices, hoping to instill a sense of responsibility in the next generation. Watching children plant saplings or proudly carry reusable water bottles made Karoline feel hopeful about the future. She believed that small actions, when multiplied, could lead to monumental change. By the third year of running their business, Karoline and Mark had achieved more than they ever dreamed possible. Their brand was recognized globally, their finances were secure, and their mission was resonating with millions. Yet, they remained committed to continuous growth. Karoline enrolled in online courses to sharpen her skills in digital marketing and leadership, while Mark attended seminars to stay updated on financial trends. They surrounded themselves with mentors and peers who challenged them to think differently and push boundaries. Their hunger for knowledge kept them agile in an ever-evolving market. One evening, as they sat on their balcony watching the sunset, Karoline turned to Mark and said, "Do you remember when we first got the Rolls-Royce? I thought it was just a car, a random gift. Now I see it as a symbol of everything we've built together." Mark smiled, squeezing her hand. "It's not just a car," he agreed. "It's proof that sometimes life gives you exactly what you need to start over, even if you don't realize it at the time." Years later, as Karoline stood on stage delivering a keynote speech at an entrepreneurship conference, she couldn't help but reflect on how far they'd come. Looking out at the sea of eager faces, she recounted her story: the unfair dismissal, the unexpected gift of the Rolls-Royce, and the courage to start anew. She emphasized the importance of staying true to oneself, even in the face of adversity. As applause erupted throughout the hall, she felt a deep sense of gratitude. Backstage, Mark greeted her with a proud hug. Together, they had built not just a thriving company, but a legacy rooted in perseverance and love. Life had thrown them a curveball, but they caught it and ran with it, proving that sometimes endings are merely beginnings in disguise. As the years passed, Karoline and Mark's business continued to evolve, becoming more than just a source of income. It became a movement. Their eco-friendly lifestyle brand had touched countless lives, inspiring people to rethink their habits and make choices that benefited both themselves and the planet. But with growth came new responsibilities, and Karoline found herself constantly adapting to the changing demands of running a global enterprise. The challenges were no longer just about meeting deadlines or managing inventory. They now involved navigating complex supply chains, addressing environmental regulations, and ensuring ethical practices at every level of production. Though daunting, these tasks fueled her passion rather than drained it. One of the most significant developments in their journey was expanding internationally. What started as a small operation out of their apartment had grown into a multinational company with customers in over 20 countries. This expansion didn't happen overnight. It required months of research, planning, and collaboration. Karoline traveled extensively, visiting factories, meeting potential partners, and attending trade shows. She loved immersing herself in different cultures, learning how people around the world approached sustainability. In Japan, she discovered innovative packaging techniques that minimized waste. In Germany, she met engineers working on cutting-edge recycling technologies. Each trip enriched her perspective and inspired new ideas for their product line. While traveling, Karoline also made it a point to connect with local communities. She visited schools, community centers, and nonprofit organizations, sharing her story and encouraging others to embrace sustainable living. These interactions reminded her of why she started this journey in the first place: to create positive change. One memorable visit was to a rural village in India, where women crafted beautiful handmade goods using recycled materials. Moved by their craftsmanship and determination, Karoline decided to collaborate with them. She introduced their products to her brand's catalog, giving these artisans access to a global market. The partnership not only empowered the women financially, but also highlighted the importance of supporting fair trade practices. Back home, Mark played a pivotal role in managing the logistics of international expansion. He worked tirelessly to establish distribution networks, negotiate contracts, and ensure compliance with varying regulations. It wasn't easy. Each country had its own set of rules regarding imports, exports, and environmental standards. But Mark thrived under pressure, his meticulous nature proving invaluable. He often joked that he felt like a detective, piecing together clues to solve logistical puzzles. His hard work paid off when their products received certifications from multiple international bodies, boosting their credibility and opening doors to even more markets. Despite their success, Karoline and Mark never lost sight of their core values. They believed that true leadership meant giving back, so they launched several initiatives aimed at fostering sustainability and education. One such program was a scholarship fund for students pursuing degrees in environmental science or related fields. Another initiative provided grants to startups focused on green innovation. Through these efforts, they hoped to nurture the next generation of changemakers. Karoline often said, "We're standing on the shoulders of those who came before us, and it's our responsibility to lift others up." Their growing influence also brought media attention. Magazines featured profiles of Karoline, calling her a trailblazer in the sustainability movement. Television shows invited her to discuss topics ranging from climate change to conscious consumerism. At first, the spotlight intimidated her, but she soon embraced it as an opportunity to amplify her message. She spoke candidly about the challenges of entrepreneurship, the importance of resilience, and the need for collective action to address environmental issues. Her authenticity resonated with audiences, earning her a loyal following. But fame came with its own set of challenges. Some critics accused her of profiting off environmentalism, questioning whether her intentions were genuine. Others dismissed her efforts as mere marketing tactics. Karoline took these criticisms in stride, understanding that not everyone would agree with her approach. Instead of defending herself publicly, she let her actions speak for themselves. She increased transparency by publishing annual impact reports detailing their progress in reducing carbon footprints, supporting fair wages, and promoting eco-friendly practices. These reports not only silenced skeptics but also strengthened trust among customers and partners. Amidst all the hustle and bustle, Karoline and Mark made sure to carve out time for themselves. They understood that maintaining balance was crucial for long-term success. Every evening, no matter how busy they were, they sat down together for dinner, sharing stories about their day and discussing future plans. Weekends were reserved for family activities, picnics in the park, hikes in the mountains, or simply lounging at home with a good movie. These moments of connection kept them grounded and reminded them of what truly mattered. Karoline's personal growth mirrored the growth of their business. The shy, uncertain woman who had once been afraid to voice her opinions was now a confident leader, unafraid to take risks and challenge norms. She credited much of this transformation to the lessons she learned along the way, the value of perseverance, the power of vulnerability, and the strength found in community. She often told friends that failure wasn't something to fear. It was an essential part of the journey. Without losing her job, she might never have discovered her true potential. Mark, too, evolved during this period. While always supportive, he began stepping into more visible roles within the company. He co-authored articles with Karoline, participated in panel discussions, and represented their brand at industry events. Together, they formed a dynamic duo, complementing each other's strengths and weaknesses. Their partnership became a model for others, showcasing how collaboration could lead to extraordinary results. As their influence grew, so did their ability to affect change on a larger scale. They joined forces with other companies and organizations to advocate for policy reforms that promoted sustainability. They lobbied governments to incentivize green practices and penalize harmful ones. They supported grassroots movements fighting against deforestation, pollution, and climate injustice. Karoline believed that businesses had a moral obligation to use their platforms for good, and she was determined to lead by example. One of the proudest moments of their journey came when they received an award for corporate social responsibility. Standing on stage, accepting the accolade, Karoline felt a surge of emotion. She thought about all the late nights, the sacrifices, and the moments of doubt that had led to this point. She thanked Mark for his unwavering support, her team for their dedication, and her customers for believing in their vision. Most importantly, She dedicated the award to anyone who had ever dared to dream bigger, to stand up for their beliefs, and to turn adversity into opportunity. By the 5th year of their business, Karoline and Mark had achieved milestones they once thought impossible. Their brand was synonymous with sustainability, trusted by millions worldwide. Their financial stability allowed them to pursue projects purely for their impact rather than profit. They invested in renewable energy startups, funded research on plastic alternatives, and even purchased land to preserve natural habitats. Yet, despite their accomplishments, they remained humble. Karoline often reminded herself that success wasn't a destination, it was a continuous journey. One evening, as they drove through the city in their beloved Rolls-Royce, Karoline turned to Mark and smiled. "Do you remember when we used to think this car was just a symbol of wealth?" she asked. "Now I see it differently. It's a reminder of how far we've come, not just materially, but emotionally and spiritually." Mark nodded, his eyes reflecting the same gratitude. They had built a life filled with purpose, love, and meaning, a testament to the power of resilience and determination. Years later, as Karoline stood on stage delivering a keynote speech at an entrepreneurship conference, she couldn't help but reflect on how far they'd come. Looking out at the sea of eager faces, she recounted her story, the unfair dismissal, the unexpected gift of the Rolls-Royce, and the courage to start anew. She emphasized the importance of staying true to oneself, even in the face of adversity. As applause erupted throughout the hall, she felt a deep sense of gratitude. Backstage, Mark greeted her with a proud hug. Together, they had built not just a thriving company, but a legacy rooted in perseverance and love. Life had thrown them a curveball, but they caught it and ran with it, proving that sometimes endings are merely beginnings in disguise. As Karoline and Mark's business continued to flourish, they realized that their journey was no longer just about them. It was about the countless lives they were touching along the way. Their brand had become a beacon of hope for people who wanted to live sustainably, but didn't know where to start. From young families adopting eco-friendly habits to retirees rediscovering their passion for environmental activism, their impact extended far beyond what they could have imagined. Yet, with this growing influence came new challenges and responsibilities, pushing them to constantly innovate and adapt. One of the biggest challenges they faced was staying ahead in an increasingly competitive market. As more companies jumped on the sustainability bandwagon, it became harder to stand out. Some brands made bold claims about being green without backing them up, leading consumers to grow skeptical. Karoline knew that authenticity was key to maintaining trust. She decided to take transparency to the next level by introducing a feature on their website called Behind the Scenes. This section included videos and articles showing how their products were made, from sourcing raw materials to packaging and shipping. They also shared stories of the workers involved in the process, highlighting their skills and dedication. Customers loved this glimpse into the human side of their brand, strengthening the emotional connection they felt. Karoline's focus on storytelling didn't stop there. She began writing a monthly newsletter titled Green Living Tips, offering practical advice on reducing waste, conserving energy, and living mindfully. Each issue featured personal anecdotes, expert interviews, and reader-submitted success stories. One subscriber wrote about how switching to reusable bags had inspired her entire neighborhood to do the same. Another shared how their family had started composting after reading one of Karoline's articles. These stories reminded Karoline that even small actions could ripple outward, creating waves of positive change. The newsletter quickly gained popularity, becoming one of their most anticipated communications. Meanwhile, Mark focused on expanding their reach through strategic partnerships. He identified organizations whose values aligned with theirs and proposed collaborations that benefited both parties. For example, they teamed up with a popular fitness app to promote eco-conscious workout gear, such as biodegradable yoga mats and organic cotton towels. They also worked with schools to develop educational programs about sustainability, providing teachers with free resources and students with discounted products. These initiatives not only increased their visibility, but also reinforced their commitment to making a difference. Despite their busy schedules, Karoline and Mark never lost sight of the importance of giving back. They launched a program called Plant a Tree, Change a Life, pledging to plant a tree for every product sold. Within months, they had planted thousands of trees across deforested areas around the world. To ensure accountability, they partnered with certified reforestation organizations and provided customers with updates on the progress. Seeing photos of lush green forests replacing barren landscapes filled Karoline with pride. She often said, "Every purchase is a vote for the kind of world we want to live in." Their efforts weren't limited to environmental causes. They also supported social justice movements. After witnessing the global outcry against inequality, Karoline and Mark decided to use their platform to amplify marginalized voices. They donated a portion of their profits to organizations fighting for racial equality, gender rights, and economic empowerment. They hosted virtual events featuring activists and thought leaders, encouraging open dialogue about pressing issues. These conversations sparked meaningful discussions among their audience, fostering a sense of community and shared purpose. While their professional lives thrived, Karoline and Mark made sure to nurture their personal relationship. They understood that a strong partnership was the foundation of everything they achieved. Every evening they took a walk together, leaving their phones behind to fully engage with each other. These walks became sacred moments, allowing them to reflect on their day and dream about the future. Sometimes they talked about expanding their product line or exploring new markets. Other times, they simply enjoyed the quiet companionship, grateful for the journey they were on. Karoline's confidence soared as she embraced her role as a leader and advocate. She spoke at conferences, universities, and corporate events, sharing her story and inspiring others to follow their dreams. Her speeches were heartfelt and relatable, drawing on her own experiences of overcoming adversity. She often recounted the day she lost her job, emphasizing that sometimes life pushes us out of our comfort zones because something better awaits. Audiences resonated with her message, frequently approaching her afterward to express gratitude. Many told her that her words had given them the courage to pursue their passions or face their fears. Mark, too, stepped into the spotlight, using his expertise to educate others about sustainable finance. He gave talks on investing in green technologies and supporting ethical businesses. His presentations were data-driven, yet accessible, breaking down complex concepts into simple terms. Together, he and Karoline became a powerhouse duo, complementing each other's strengths and inspiring audiences worldwide. Their chemistry was undeniable, and people often remarked on how seamlessly they worked together. As their influence grew, so did their ability to drive systemic change. They joined forces with policymakers, NGOs, and industry leaders to push for regulations that prioritize sustainability. They advocated for bans on single-use plastics, incentives for renewable energy adoption, and stricter penalties for polluters. Though progress was slow, they remained patient and persistent, knowing that lasting change required time and effort. Karoline often reminded herself that every small victory mattered. Whether it was convincing a local government to install recycling bins or persuading a corporation to switch to biodegradable packaging. Their journey wasn't without setbacks. However, there were days when things didn't go as planned, shipments delayed, campaigns underperforming, or partnerships falling through. But instead of letting these disappointments discourage them, Karoline and Mark viewed them as opportunities to learn and grow. They encouraged their team to adopt the same mindset, fostering a culture of resilience and innovation. Employees admired their leadership style, feeling empowered to take risks and think creatively. This supportive environment not only boosted morale but also led to groundbreaking ideas that propelled the company forward. By the 7th year of their business, Karoline and Mark had achieved milestones that once seemed unimaginable. Their brand was recognized globally, their products stocked in major retailers and online platforms worldwide. Their charitable initiatives had transformed communities, planting millions of trees, funding scholarships, and supporting grassroots movements. Yet, despite their success, they remained grounded. Karoline often said, "We're not here to chase fame or fortune. We're here to make a difference." One of the highlights of their journey came when they received an invitation to speak at the United Nations Climate Change Conference. Standing on stage alongside world leaders and renowned scientists, Karoline delivered a powerful speech about the role of businesses in combating climate change. She emphasized the importance of collaboration, urging governments, corporations, and individuals to work together toward a sustainable future. Her words resonated deeply, earning a standing ovation from the audience. Backstage, Mark hugged her tightly, tears streaming down his face. It was a moment neither of them would ever forget. That evening, as they drove home in their Rolls-Royce, Karoline turned to Mark and smiled. "Do you remember when we first got this car? I thought it was just a random gift. Now I see it as a symbol of everything we've built, a reminder that sometimes endings are really beginnings in disguise." Mark nodded, his eyes reflecting the same gratitude. They had come so far, from uncertainty to triumph, from doubt to confidence, from isolation to community. Their journey had taught them that resilience, determination, and love could overcome any obstacle. Years later, as Karoline stood on stage delivering a keynote speech at an entrepreneurship conference, she couldn't help but reflect on how far they'd come. Looking out at the sea of eager faces, she recounted her story: the unfair dismissal, the unexpected gift of the Rolls-Royce, and the courage to start anew. She emphasized the importance of staying true to oneself, even in the face of adversity. As applause erupted throughout the hall, she felt a deep sense of gratitude. Backstage, Mark greeted her with a proud hug. Together, they had built not just a thriving company, but a legacy rooted in perseverance and love. Life had thrown them a curveball, but they caught it and ran with it, proving that sometimes endings are merely beginnings in disguise. By the 8th year of their journey, Karoline and Mark's business had reached heights they never dreamed possible. Their eco-friendly lifestyle brand was now a household name, recognized not only for its innovative products but also for its unwavering commitment to sustainability and social responsibility. Yet, as their influence grew, so did the challenges that came with it. The stakes were higher than ever, and every decision they made carried significant weight. Despite this, Karoline and Mark remained steadfast in their mission, knowing that their work was about more than profits. It was about creating a better future. One of the biggest tests they faced during this period was navigating the complexities of global expansion. As their customer base spread across continents, they encountered cultural differences, regulatory hurdles, and logistical nightmares. In some countries, importing biodegradable materials was prohibitively expensive due to tariffs. In others, local laws restricted certain types of packaging. Karoline spent countless hours researching solutions, consulting experts, and negotiating with authorities. She often joked that she felt like a diplomat, bridging gaps between cultures and systems. But her perseverance paid off when they finally established partnerships with local manufacturers who shared their vision. These collaborations allowed them to reduce costs while maintaining quality, ensuring that their products remained accessible worldwide. While tackling these challenges, Karoline also focused on deepening her connection with customers. She understood that trust was the foundation of any successful brand, and she worked tirelessly to nurture that bond. One initiative she introduced was a customer feedback loop, where buyers could share their thoughts and suggestions directly with the company. Every month, Karoline reviewed hundreds of responses, taking notes on what people loved and what they didn't. This feedback led to several improvements, such as redesigning product labels for clarity and offering subscription services for frequently purchased items. Customers appreciated being heard, and their loyalty only grew stronger. Mark, meanwhile, continued to innovate on the financial side of the business. He explored new ways to diversify their income streams, investing in emerging technologies like carbon capture and renewable energy storage. His investments weren't just about profit. They were strategic moves to support industries that aligned with their values. For instance, he funded a startup developing edible cutlery made from grains, which not only reduced waste but also provided jobs in rural areas. These ventures complemented their core business, reinforcing their reputation as pioneers in sustainable innovation. Mark's foresight earned him recognition as one of the top green investors in the industry, further elevating their brand's profile. Despite their successes, Karoline and Mark never forgot the importance of humility. They believed that true leadership meant lifting others up, so they expanded their charitable efforts to include mentorship programs for aspiring entrepreneurs. Through workshops and online courses, they shared their knowledge, teaching participants how to build ethical businesses that prioritized people and the planet over profits. Many of their mentees went on to launch their own ventures, creating a ripple effect of positive change. Karoline often said, "Success isn't measured by how much you achieve. It's measured by how many lives you touch." Their growing influence also brought opportunities to collaborate with high-profile figures. Celebrities and influencers began endorsing their products, amplifying their message to millions of followers. One particularly memorable partnership was with a famous actor known for his environmental activism. Together, they launched a limited edition line of reusable water bottles, with proceeds going to clean water initiatives in underserved communities. The campaign was a massive success, raising awareness and funds while inspiring fans to adopt greener habits. Karoline cherished moments like these, knowing that their work was reaching corners of the world they might never visit themselves. As time always, their brand gained prominence, so did the scrutiny they faced. Critics accused them of greenwashing, claiming that their efforts were superficial compared to larger corporations making grand promises. Others dismissed their initiatives as marketing gimmicks. Instead of lashing out, Karoline chose to address these concerns head-on. She invited journalists to tour their facilities, meet their team, and witness their operations firsthand. She published detailed reports outlining their environmental impact, including areas where they fell short and plans to improve. Her transparency silenced doubters and strengthened trust among supporters. Karoline and Mark also used their platform to advocate for systemic change. They joined forces with policymakers, scientists, and activists to push for legislation that prioritized sustainability. They testified before government committees, urging lawmakers to implement stricter emission standards, ban harmful chemicals, and incentivize green practices. Though progress was slow, they remained patient and persistent, knowing that real change required time and effort. Karoline often reminded herself that even small victories mattered, whether it was convincing a city council to install solar panels or persuading a school district to switch to compostable lunch trays. Amidst all the hustle and bustle, Karoline and Mark made sure to prioritize their personal well-being. They understood that burnout was a real risk, especially in a fast-paced industry like theirs. To stay balanced, they adopted routines that nurtured both body and mind. Every morning they practiced yoga together, focusing on breath and gratitude. On weekends they escaped to nature, hiking through forests or kayaking on serene lakes. These moments of stillness kept them grounded, reminding them of why they started this journey in the first place. Karoline's personal growth mirrored the growth of their business. The timid woman who had once been afraid to speak up at work was now a confident leader, unafraid to challenge norms and take risks. She credited much of this transformation to the lessons she learned along the way: the value of resilience, the power of vulnerability, and the strength found in community. She often told friends that failure wasn't something to fear. It was an essential part of the journey. Without losing her job, she might never have discovered her true potential. Mark, too, evolved during this period. While always supportive, he began stepping into more visible roles within the company. He co-authored articles with Karoline, participated in panel discussions, and represented their brand at industry events. Together, they formed a dynamic duo, complementing each other's strengths and weaknesses. Their partnership became a model for others, showcasing how collaboration could lead to extraordinary results. As their influence grew, so did their ability to affect change on a larger scale. They joined forces with other companies and organizations to advocate for policy reforms that promoted sustainability. They lobbied governments to incentivize green practices and penalize harmful ones. They supported grassroots movements fighting against deforestation, pollution, and climate injustice. Karoline believed that businesses had a moral obligation to use their platforms for good, and she was determined to lead by example. One of the proudest moments of their journey came when, They received an award for corporate social responsibility. Standing on stage, accepting the accolade, Karoline felt a surge of emotion. She thought about all the late nights, the sacrifices, and the moments of doubt that had led to this point. She thanked Mark for his unwavering support, her team for their dedication, and her customers for believing in their vision. Most importantly, she dedicated the award to anyone who had ever dared to dream bigger, to stand up for their beliefs, and to turn adversity into opportunity. By the 9th year of their business, Karoline and Mark had achieved milestones they once thought impossible. Their brand was synonymous with sustainability, trusted by millions worldwide. Their financial stability allowed them to pursue projects purely for their impact rather than profit. They invested in renewable energy startups, funded research on plastic alternatives, and even purchased land to preserve natural habitats. Yet, despite their accomplishments, they remained humble. Karoline often reminded herself that success wasn't a destination, it was a continuous journey. One evening, as they drove through the city in their beloved Rolls-Royce, Karoline turned to Mark and smiled. "Do you remember when we used to think this car was just a symbol of wealth?" she asked. "Now I see it differently. It's a reminder of how far we've come, not just materially, but emotionally and spiritually." Mark nodded, his eyes reflecting the same gratitude. They had built a life filled with purpose, love, and meaning, a testament to the power of resilience and determination. Years later, as Karoline stood on stage delivering a keynote speech at an entrepreneurship conference, she couldn't help but reflect on how far they'd come. Looking out at the sea of eager faces, she recounted her story, the unfair dismissal, the unexpected gift of the Rolls-Royce, and the courage to start anew. She emphasized the importance of staying true to oneself, even in the face of adversity. As applause erupted throughout the hall, she felt a deep sense of gratitude. Backstage, Mark greeted her with a proud hug. Together, they had built not just a thriving company but a legacy rooted in perseverance and love. Life had thrown them a curveball, but they caught it and ran with it, proving that sometimes, endings by the 10th year of their journey, Karoline and Mark's business had become more than just a brand. It was a movement that inspired millions around the world. Their eco-friendly lifestyle products were now staples in households across continents, and their message of sustainability resonated deeply with people from all walks of life. Yet, despite their monumental success, they remained grounded, always, remembering where they started and why they began this journey in the first place. For Karoline and Mark, it wasn't about fame or fortune. It was about leaving a lasting legacy, a testament to the power of resilience, determination, and love. One of the most transformative aspects of their journey during this period was their ability to scale their impact beyond their own company. They realized early on that true change required collaboration, so they founded an alliance called Green Together, bringing together businesses, nonprofits, and individuals committed to creating a sustainable future. The alliance hosted annual summits where members shared ideas, resources, and strategies for tackling environmental challenges. These events became global platforms for innovation, attracting leaders from diverse fields who were eager to contribute to the cause. Through Green Together, Karoline and Mark demonstrated that collective action could achieve far more than any single entity working alone. Karoline's role as a leader evolved significantly during these years. She transitioned from being primarily focused on product development to becoming a global advocate for sustainability. Her speeches at international conferences drew standing ovations, and her interviews reached millions through social media and television networks. People admired her authenticity. She spoke not as someone who claimed to have all the answers, but as someone who had faced struggles and learned valuable lessons along the way. One of her most memorable talks was at a youth leadership forum, where she encouraged young people to channel their passion into action. "You don't need permission to make a difference," she told them. "Start small, stay consistent, and trust that your efforts will add up." Mark, too, continued to push boundaries, particularly in the realm of green finance. He pioneered new investment models designed to support startups working on groundbreaking solutions for climate change. His portfolio included companies developing ocean-cleaning drones, carbon-neutral building materials, and zero-waste packaging alternatives. He also launched a podcast called Future Forward, where he interviewed entrepreneurs, scientists, and activists about the innovations shaping our planet's future. The podcast quickly gained popularity, further amplifying his message that sustainable practices weren't just good for the Earth, they were smart business decisions. As their influence expanded, so did their charitable initiatives. They introduced a program called Eco Heroes, which recognized everyday individuals making extraordinary contributions to environmental conservation. Winners received grants to fund their projects, along with mentorship from experts in the DI field. One recipient was a teenager from Kenya who had organized a community effort to plant trees and educate locals about reforestation. Another was a retired teacher from Canada who had transformed her backyard into a wildlife sanctuary. By shining a spotlight on these unsung heroes, Karoline and Mark hoped to inspire others to take action in their own communities. Their personal lives continued to thrive alongside their professional achievements. Karoline and Mark prioritized spending quality time together, knowing that their partnership was the foundation of everything they built. Every evening, they took long walks hand in hand, discussing their day and dreaming about the future. On weekends, they explored farmers' markets, attended art exhibits, and cooked meals using locally sourced ingredients. These simple joys reminded them of what truly mattered, their connection to each other and to the world around them. Despite their success, Karoline and Mark never lost sight of the importance of humility. They understood that no matter how much they achieved, there was always more work to be done. This mindset kept them open to learning and growing, both personally and professionally. They encouraged their team to adopt the same approach, fostering a culture of curiosity and innovation. Employees felt empowered to share their ideas, knowing that their voices would be heard and valued. This supportive environment led to breakthroughs that propelled the company forward, such as the launch of a biodegradable phone case made entirely from agricultural waste. As their brand grew, so did the scrutiny they faced. Critics occasionally accused them of overstepping their bounds, questioning whether a private company should play such a prominent role in advocating for policy changes. But Karoline and Mark stood firm in their belief that businesses had a responsibility to use their platforms for good. They argued that sustainability wasn't a political issue, it was a human one. To address these concerns, they increased transparency, publishing detailed reports on their lobbying efforts and inviting independent audits of their operations. Their openness earned them even greater trust among customers and partners. One of the highlights of their journey came when they received an invitation to speak at the United Nations General Assembly. Standing on stage before world leaders, Karoline delivered a powerful speech about the urgent need for collective action against climate change. She emphasized the importance of collaboration, urging governments, corporations, and individuals to work together toward a sustainable future. Her words resonated deeply, earning a standing ovation from the audience. Backstage, Mark hugged her tightly, tears streaming down his face. It was a moment neither of them would ever forget. That evening, as they drove home in their Rolls-Royce, Karoline turned to Mark and smiled. "Do you remember when we first got this car? I thought it was just a random gift. Now I see it as a symbol of everything we've built. A reminder that sometimes endings are really beginnings in disguise." Mark nodded, his eyes reflecting the same gratitude. They had come so far, from uncertainty to triumph, from doubt to confidence, from isolation to community. Their journey had taught them that resilience, determination, and love could overcome any obstacle. Years later, as Karoline stood on stage delivering a keynote speech at an entrepreneurship conference, she couldn't help but reflect on how far they'd come. Looking out at the sea of eager faces, she recounted her story, the unfair dismissal, the unexpected gift of the Rolls-Royce, and the courage to start anew. She emphasized the importance of staying true to oneself, even in the face of adversity. As applause erupted throughout the hall, she felt a deep sense of gratitude. Backstage, Mark greeted her with a proud hug. Together, they had built not just a thriving company but a legacy rooted in perseverance and love. Life had thrown them a curveball, but they caught it and ran with it, proving that sometimes endings are merely beginnings in disguise. In the years that followed, Karoline and Mark continued to inspire others through their actions and words. Their story became a beacon of hope for anyone facing challenges, reminding them that setbacks could lead to unimaginable opportunities if approached with courage and creativity. They often said that their greatest achievement wasn't the wealth or recognition they amassed. It was the countless lives they touched along the way. From empowering artisans in rural villages to mentoring young entrepreneurs, their impact rippled outward, creating waves of positive change. Today, Karoline and Mark are celebrated not only for their business acumen, but also for their unwavering commitment to making the world a better place. Their journey serves as a powerful reminder that success isn't defined by titles or bank balances. It's defined by the difference we make in the lives of others. And as they sit together on their balcony, watching the sunset, they know that their work is far from over. There are still forests to protect, oceans to clean, and dreams to nurture. But with each passing day, they move closer to their vision of a brighter, greener future, one step at a time.